Spider Impact can import data from web services. This is best explained with an example, so let's jump right into the software. So here we are in the admin section. We're looking at the import connection screens. This lists all of the import connections we have for Spider Impact. There's database connections, SFTP connections, Google Sheets, Zapier. We're worried about web services today. So we're going to click Add Connection to create a new connection, and we're going to choose REST Web Service. Now, there's a lot of different options Spider Impact supports for importing from different types of web services. The ones you should use for your import connection depend on what your import connection is connecting to. So here's the documentation for Zendesk. In this particular example, we're going to be pulling in data about Zendesk tickets. It's our customer support system we use for making sure we're answering customer questions on time. I want to create some KPIs based on how many tickets are currently open. So 100% of the documentation is going to be on Zendesk side. None of this information is in Spider Impact. If I'm connecting to Power BI, the information is going to be on Microsoft site. If I'm connecting to Salesforce, all that's on the salesforce.com website. So in this particular situation, I am running a search query. I want to find out the number of open tickets. So here's an example. It's the URL. And again, all this is documented up here. But here, the URL example it's spiderstrategies.com, spiderstrategies.zendesk.com/API/version2. And then there's extra information for everybody. So in this particular situation, it's search.json. And then the query type is ticket, and the status is open. Perfect, right? In this particular situation here, another example, it's count. If you're counting the number of tickets instead of actually providing the number of tickets, you would have count.json, same kind of thing, query, ticket, status open, all that kind of stuff. So all of these different endpoints are different for Zendesk, but they all start with the same base URL, and then you add additional information on to say what kind of information you want to get back. Okay, back to Spider Impact. This is not an OAuth version 2 connection. It's not an anonymous connection. This is a basic HTTP connection with a username and password. So we're going to paste in my username, and we're going to paste in my password, which is securely encrypted and stored behind the scenes in the Spider Impact database. We're going to click Next. Now this is that base URL I'm talking about. We're going to paste in not the full URL of the API. This is just the connection. We just want the base. And the reason why we do this is because Spider Impact stores the import connections separately for the imports themselves. This allows high-level administrators who have access to the connection info, right? They have the username and password, they have the authentication token, whatever it is, they bake that information into the import connection itself, and they don't give other people access to edit that import connection. They only give people access to use that connection to import their data. That way, I, as a high-level administrator, can save all my authentication information with the connection, and then people who don't have access to that username and password will be able to use my connection only in the way that I choose. In this particular situation, I am saying you can only use this connection to import data from spiderstrategies.zendesk.com/API/version2/whatever. So this is the base URL. And who am I going to give access to this Zendesk connection? I'm going to give the admins, and I'm going to give Jane Wilson. So me, the admin users, and Jane Wilson will have access to this import connection. I click Done, and it's reaching out and it's talking to the Zendesk server. Perfect. It has connected successfully. So from here, I can use this import connection to create things, but instead, I'm going to log out, and I'm going to log in as Jane. Don't need any of this. So Jane is a lower level user. She doesn't have high access to things. So when we go to her import connections, instead of seeing a list of all of them, she is just going to see the import connections that she has access to. In addition, she has not been given permission to edit this import connection. She just can view it, and she can use it to import data. So she doesn't have access to that username and password that I typed in. She can't modify the URL, so she has a limited accessibility to what she can hit. So let's take a look. We're going to go to datasets, we're going to go to operations, and she's going to create a new data set. It's going to called Zendesk open tickets. And it's a REST web service. The only connection she has access to is Zendesk. And if you notice here, the endpoint URL is baked in. She doesn't have a choice of what to do there. So she is going to hit search.json. She could, there's a bunch of different, if you read the documentation, there's a bunch of different things that the Zendesk API can provide. She's going to do a search. And what's she going to search? She is adding a URL parameter. The key is query. And this is your search query. We're going to say the type is a ticket and the status is open. And again, read the documentation. There's all different types of things you can search for. Whoever ticket, show me all the tickets assigned to person Y or whatever. Okay, there's no HTTP headers, and that's the only URL parameter. We're going to click next. It's going to reach out and it's grabbed all this JSON data. This is data that we just got back from the server. And we can click communication details. And we can see, what information. Here's the HTTP response headers. You can use it, like this is the full URL. If you notice, it built up that full query string and it escaped and did all that kind of fancy stuff. This is the response body. There's a lot of great stuff you can use for troubleshooting. If I wanted to just grab specific things, I can just grab this information, but instead, everything here is a row. So that big block of data, this is one dataset record. Here's another dataset record. Here's another dataset record, right? So what we want is to pick what we want for our dataset records. And here we've chosen a ticket for every record. Okay, so I click next. We don't need any data transformations. And this is an example of our data we just got. Looking good. And we're going to click next. And we're going to schedule this import to run every day at 2 in the morning. And when it comes in, we're going to replace all of the records that are already there. Yes, we want to overwrite. And that's it. We're importing all the data from Zendesk. There are 39 records. We can go to the Records tab and explore and look at all our data. But let's look at it this way too. Priority. Okay, of the 39 records, 75% of them are blank priority, 5 have a high priority, and 5 have urgent priority. Perfect. So again, I can create charts and graphs from here. I can do whatever I want, but let's start creating KPIs. So I'm going to go to the urgent, click that number 5, and I'm going to create a dataset KPI. This is number of open urgent tickets. Dataset field. So if the data I was getting back from Zendesk has historical data, right? In January, you had this many urgent tickets. In February, you had this much urgent tickets. There would be a field along there saying January, February, and I would choose that here. In this situation, all I have is a snapshot. All I've gotten from Zendesk is how many tickets are currently open today. And that's fine. I'm going to be creating, this is the month of October. I'm going to be creating every single night, overwriting that value. There's 5 open tickets, there's 6 open tickets, there's 4 open tickets. And it gets overwritten. And then once it comes to November, that last time I wrote to October, it's going to keep that forever. And then the new data is going to get written into November. So now I'll have 2 months of data. Then I'll have 3 months of data. And I'll slowly be building up my history of data over time. But right now, I just have this current snapshot, and that's all I can write. So I click Create. Perfect. Let's do high. Open. High priority tickets. Oh. It's a snapshot. And then you can do the total records as well. Number of open tickets. Okay, so I've just created 3 dataset KPIs, and let's check them out in this scorecard section. And we're in October. And look at this. There are 5 open urgent tickets, 5 high priority, and a total of 39. Isn't this great? So every single night, these KPIs are going to update automatically from Zendesk. So I'm going to edit this thing. It's a goal only. High values are worse. And my goal is 4. As long as I have, as soon as I start having 4 or more open urgent tickets, that's a problem. I'm in the red. So I hit save. Now I go to the overview. All of a sudden, look at this. I've got a red KPI automatically updating with the latest data coming from my system of record. So that is API connections, right? Spider Impact can reach out and pull data from RESTful web services from a wide variety of systems of record.